off the topic. I definitely thought it was perfect because I'd have to do nothing but fake it just to get up here. So I think I'm doing all right so far. Anyway, to better understand my story, you kind of have to have an intro to my dad. And my dad is absolutely crazy. He comes from either being an absolute clean freak, like serious, he'll throw a chair over a spilt glass of milk, but is the funniest guy you'd ever meet. He has a nickname for everybody, you know, all of his children included, and we'll never live him down. That's just the way it is. And, you know, so it was always kind of hard growing up, you know, and rather confusing as to what he would take as to be wrong or be a, you know, something to be punished for. And so when we were probably 14, 15, my cousin and best friend and I were usually a kind of an ornery trio. And we'd hit the streets of Columbus, which is a pretty huge town with a lot of things to do at the age of 14 and 15. So Molly actually got her school permit because she conveniently lived outside of town, so we could, you know, hit the streets illegally now in a vehicle. And at the time, one of our more favorite things to do was to just scream absolute obscenities at people for no reason at all. And so we did what most people did, you know, once they got their car in Columbus, we went to Walmart and walked around and, you know, dicked around the whole time. And I'm not really sure of how the details or how it like all came about, but there was a day that we were there and we decided we wanted to get on the intercom. Like, we need to get on the intercom. And, you know, every aisle, about every 3 aisles, there's a nice carpeted pole with a telephone on each, you know, pole. And you pull it, and there's a code you have to punch in. And we're like, well, we don't know the fucking code, so what are we going to do? So we did what anybody else would do, and we went up to the next blue vested individual and told them we were looking for our mom. And so, as she grabbed the phone, she punched in the code, and it just so happened to be *69, which is, honestly, how could you forget that, and why would it possibly be the main prompt for, like, the most used, you know, code in the store? Like, what kind of perv is like, And so, we knew that the code was ours, and we were not, I still cannot forget it. Anyway, so we, you know, wandered off and left that lady alone and found the next pole, and Brenda on one end of the aisle and Molly on the other. They always kind of peer pressured me into doing things that I wasn't absolutely up for, but I didn't care about it anymore. And so they would be on watch on each end of the aisle, and you know, I'm not an experienced intercom goer. And at Walmart, when you get on the intercom, there's a slight pause, you know, right before it. It's kind of awkward. The tone has to be right. You know, it's things that are practiced. It's a practice, you know, item. But so we went ahead and punched in the code. And at that time, we were more into like 2-3 word phrases. Usually not appropriate. So, I mean, if you can just picture yourself looking for some rollbacks, you know, and like over the intercom, you know, the music stops, and there's about a 5-second, you know, pause, and it just goes, penis, butt sex, genital warts. And then once again followed by a 5-second break between the music starting back up. So everybody, you know, I mean, if you're just, you know, wandering on, like, that would be almost my best Walmart trip ever. And so we continued on every day after school for 4 days. We went to fucking Walmart to get on the intercom. And, you know, we would just kind of sneak behind. We're like, oh, God, that was great. That was awesome. And it was just kind of like a power trip for us, you know, 14, 15, and letting our voices really be heard. And it later progressed into, like, full-line sentences. There was once in the Columbus Walmart, no shit, there is a sale on used condoms in the lubrication aisle. Like, we were looking to develop this into something. It went from 2-3 words to whole sentences, and we're like, yeah, that's good. So we were getting kind of cocky and continued to do odd things in between the intercom interruptions. And so I found myself in a cart. Brenda's pushing me around in a cart, and Molly had seen a blue-vested individual coming fast our way. So she quick ducked into the greeting card aisle, grabs a greeting card, acts like she doesn't know who the hell we are. We didn't see this person coming, and he comes up and he's like, we've been watching you. And at the time, I'm in a cart, laying down. You know, like, God only knows what we were doing, honestly. And so he tells me to get out and that I need to come with him immediately. And so he takes me back to that crappy, I don't know why Walmart is required to have a cafeteria with nasty hot dogs. Like, you shouldn't be there that long. Like, get in, get out. You know, why? But he required me to go back to a booth and sit there with another security guard, and he's like, I'm gonna tell your parents everything you said. And I'm like, well, unconsciously, I was like, well, maybe Dad don't think this is funny. This might go over. And he left me and went to the sales. I vividly remember this. Went to the sales department, calls my dad, and 5 minutes later, by this time Molly and Brenda were able to go out to her vehicle that we illegally drove there, and they were saying prayers, hoping that I would be released unharmed, I suppose. I don't really know. It didn't help. Needless to say, my dad showed up about 5 minutes later and comes in and gets me, and he was told everything that I had said in the last 4 days. I don't know if they wrote it down. But once we got out, I still remember like walking through Walmart and seeing like the yellow on the ground, and looking at my dad, and I'm like, God, Dad, you really would have thought that was funny. And he's like, get the fuck in the car. It's like, I have never been so embarrassed in my whole life. And I was just like, oh, I honestly thought he might have thought it was funny. And, my dad was really, really, really strict growing up. I spent probably 3/4 of my high school career grounded. And he stuck to his punishments. Like, he was a stickler. He's fun to say, but he's a dick. And so I was grounded for about a month and a half after that, and everything goes on, and time goes on, and about 2 or 3 years later, the story came up at a family Thanksgiving, and I was talking to my cousin Chris about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, God, I still can't believe Dad was mad about that. And our dad, I'm so surprised that my dad was mad about that, rather. And he said, he's like, well, he actually did think it was pretty fucking funny. He's like, he couldn't tell you at the time, so he had to sit there, put on the face, and, punish me, do the right thing, which, I thought was pretty awesome, because God only knows how many other dumb-ass things that I didn't already do that maybe he prevented me from doing in the future. And so, I guess this is for my dad, like to thank him for faking it that day and not, giving in to how funny it actually probably was to him. Sticking out that grounding. And like a famous singer once said, this one's for you, Daddy.
Hear me?
Yes.
Understand me?
Yes. No.